The medical bay on the Zelthari vessel, Kirellan Dawn, smelled like disinfected copper and humming ozone. Everything gleamed: floors, walls, even the ambient light panels. The moment Elwood stumbled through the airlock with his arm clutched against his side, he knew he was in for something far more complicated than he wanted. "Please remain still," the attending medic, a Zelthari named Vesq, said. He had 6 limbs, 2 of which were already dragging a floating tray of instruments toward Aaron. "Your central thoracic blood pressure is elevated, possible internal contusions, multiple superficial dermal lacerations, threat level, moderate to severe." Aaron sat heavily on the curved examination bench, sweat beading under his collar. His side throbbed like a drum with each breath, but he forced out a strained chuckle. "I just need a Bandaid, a big one maybe, or duct tape." Vesq turned to the assistant unit, a hovering disc with tentacle-like appendages. "Begin full trauma protocol, alert surgical prep, initiate sedative sequence." "What? No, wait," Aaron raised his good hand. "No sedatives, I'm fine. I fell down a ravine, not through a meat grinder." "You fell down a jagged 60-meter crevice and were struck by high-velocity debris," Vesq replied without a hint of irony. "Your vitals indicate strain across multiple organ systems. We will address each injury sequentially. You are not fine." Aaron winced. That part was true. The mission on Kirellar 9 had gone sideways fast. What was supposed to be a routine geological survey ended in chaos when the surface gave out under him. He'd landed hard, rolled twice, and managed to crawl back to the rendezvous point with one arm dangling and a dozen cuts stinging through his uniform. Still, he'd walked. That had to count for something. Vesq's instruments buzzed to life, lights dancing across Aaron's chest. The suit peeled open at the seams, revealing bruises blooming like oil slicks. Fracture confirmed. Rib 3 on the left side, pulmonary bruising minimal but present. Laceration on upper thigh requires biofoam and synthetic stitching. Risk of infection, low to moderate, the assistant unit recited. "Just a rib, I was pretty sure it was like 4. Aaron tried to shift, but Vesq held him still with 2 firm limbs. "One is broken, 2 others strained. You will remain immobile for assessment." Attempting to function in this condition could result in punctured lung, internal bleeding, or spinal misalignment. Aaron exhaled slowly. "Okay, fine. Do what you need to do, just, can we not make it a big deal? I'd rather not be the center of a medical drama." Vesq didn't answer immediately. Instead, he began sealing the cuts on Aaron's arms and face, each one treated as if it were a life-threatening wound. A sterile field was projected around every abrasion. Cooling gel followed, then a laser stitch, then another scan. For a moment, Aaron wondered if they were going to implant a microchip in each scar. "You treat every scratch like it's a battlefield trauma," Aaron muttered under his breath. "We do not distinguish based on severity alone," Vesq replied. "All injuries are addressed with optimal precision. Your species' tolerance for discomfort is inconsistent." "I'm not inconsistent, I'm just—" Aaron trailed off as Vesq tapped a screen. A holographic image of his ribcage appeared, the fracture illuminated in pulsing red. "Do you wish to delay treatment and risk permanent impairment?" "No," Aaron grumbled. "Carry on." The next hour passed in a flurry of procedures. First came the numbing agent, cold and sharp as it spread beneath his skin. Then a diagnostic probe slid between his ribs with a hiss feeding data to the console. Vesq adjusted the angle twice before locking in a stabilizing brace that clicked around his torso. "You will wear this for 6 Earth weeks," Vesq announced. "Mobility will be limited, no intensive physical activity, no lifting, no bending." "No, I get it," Aaron interrupted. "I'll be a statue." "You will rest," Aaron sighed. "I'll try." The assistant unit moved next, addressing the gash on his thigh. The cut was ugly, about 5 inches long, torn open on a sharp rock. Vesq layered synthetic skin over the foam injection, smoothing it flat before sealing it with a laser pass. "This will take 10 days to fully integrate," Vesq said. You must avoid moisture exposure and friction on the area. Meaning I can't wear pants, correct? Great. Guess I'll be the guy in shorts on an alien ship. Once the procedures were done, Vesq stepped back and began compiling a recovery plan. Aaron leaned against the bench, breathing easier now that the stabilizer was in place. The pain hadn't vanished, but it was dulled manageable. You should be commended for returning to the rendezvous point unaided, Vesq said unexpectedly. Aaron blinked. You think so? Many species would have succumbed to shock. Your refusal of assistance, however irrational, is notable. Aaron gave a half smile. What can I say? Stubbornness is part of the job description. Vesq didn't smile. He simply nodded once and turned back to his instruments. Later that evening, Aaron sat in the recovery ward, surrounded by glowing panels and quiet machines. He'd been given a nutrient pack that tasted vaguely like lemon and cardboard. The ship's gravity was calibrated closely enough to Earth's that his muscles ached in familiar ways, but he still felt like he was floating slightly off kilter. A soft knock, or rather, a rhythmic vibration against the entry panel announced a visitor. The door slid open and Commander Delara Ven stepped in, her dark uniform crisp and her expression unreadable. Aaron, I heard about the fall. Yeah, bit of a surprise. Ground gave out under me. I tried to grab a ledge, but, well, he gestured to his brace and bandages. Gravity won that round. She walked closer, eyes scanning the bruises still visible on his neck and jaw. You're lucky it wasn't worse. I know, I'm just glad I didn't land on my head. That would have really ruined the week. You should have called in the drone for evac. I didn't want to risk drawing attention. We were still in a volatile zone. I figured I'd crawl my way out, keep it quiet. Delara folded her arms, and risk bleeding out alone. Aaron shrugged. I didn't bleed that much. You tore open your leg. Yeah, but Vesq covered every scratch like I was dying. I told him I just needed a Bandaid. Delara's expression twitched just slightly. And I'm guessing he didn't listen, not even a little. She pulled up a chair and sat beside him. You'll be grounded until the medical team clears you. Aaron nodded. 6 weeks, no missions, no lifting, no pants. Delara glanced at his exposed thigh wrapped in synthetic mesh. I suppose you'll set a new fashion trend. Alien chic. For a while, neither of them spoke. The room hummed softly, the lights dimmed to a soft blue. Outside the window, stars crawled past like glitter spilled in a dark river. You did well, Delara said finally, making it back, not panicking. Aaron looked away. I was scared, I just didn't have time to stop. Every time I paused, it hurt worse. That's how you know it's serious, he laughed quietly and winced. Don't make me laugh, it stabs when I laugh, Delara stood. Get some rest and no moving around. Aaron leaned back, eyes half-lidded. Got it, statue mode engaged. As she left, the assistant unit hovered back into the room and began scanning him again. Aaron groaned, pulling the blanket higher. I really only needed a Band-Aid, he muttered. The assistant paused. Incorrect, Aaron sighed. Yeah, I know. Aaron woke to a low chime and the unmistakable scent of sterilized algae paste. His mouth was dry, his torso sore, and his leg felt like someone had wrapped it in cling film and left it out in the sun. The recovery pod hummed softly beneath him, gently adjusting its incline as he stirred. The lighting had shifted to a reddish hue, a simulated sunset, according to the Zelthari diurnal cycle. He had no idea how long he'd been asleep. A familiar rustling sound reached his ears. Vesq was back, sorting through a rack of sealed containers filled with murky liquids and pale blue gels. The medic's focus was absolute, 4 of his 6 arms working simultaneously. When Aaron shifted and let out a low groan, one of Vesq's middle limbs halted mid-air. You are conscious, acceptable? Aaron blinked slowly. Barely. Feels like I got hit by a truck full of bricks. Then the bricks sued me. Your nervous system is exhibiting elevated discomfort thresholds. I will prepare a secondary analgesic compound. Unless it tastes like coffee and fixes sarcasm, I'll pass, Aaron muttered, propping himself up on one elbow. You are not permitted to sit upright past 30 degrees, Vesq said, already moving to lower the pod's incline. Aaron grunted as the bed shifted beneath him. You know, humans have been walking off cracked ribs for centuries. I read about a guy who ran a marathon with 2 broken toes and a dislocated shoulder. Vesq didn't even glance his way. Extraordinary and irrelevant. The assistant unit hovered in, its appendages holding a tray with what looked like a melted candle and a pair of translucent swabs. Aaron stared at it. Let me guess. More scans? Microbial culture from your dermal exposure sites, Vesq replied, taking the swabs. The geological strata of Kirellar 9 contains silicate flora with unpredictable enzymatic properties. We are ensuring no latent reactivity. I washed off in that decon mist. You guys practically pressure washed my DNA. That was preliminary, this is conclusive. Aaron sighed and let Vesq dab at his arm. The swab tingled like soda fizzing on a scrape. He winced. You are unusually reactive, Vesq said, observing the result. Your reflex threshold is inconsistent with baseline human data. Maybe I'm just not used to being poked with dissolving Q-tips. You will be, Vesq said. There are 17 more to go. Aaron's eyes widened. 17. I only fell on like 3 rocks. You fell into a biologically active crevice. We must test every abrasion site individually. Standard protocol. He slumped back against the pod. This is why humans don't let aliens run their hospitals. You'd bankrupt us with cotton swabs alone. You would prefer a less thorough examination, honestly? Yeah, I'd settle for a sandwich and a nap. There was a pause. Then Vesq said, your nutrient levels are suboptimal. I will arrange a meal unit. Aaron perked up. Wait, real food. Not that lemon cardboard sludge. Vesq made a note on his datapad. You require protein-rich intake to compensate for tissue regeneration. I will requisition a suitable analog. 10 minutes later, the assistant unit returned with a compartmentalized tray. One section held a gelatinous block that jiggled like it had opinions. Another contained a cluster of bright green spheres that looked suspiciously like frog eggs. The final compartment emitted steam and a faint smell of rosemary. Aaron eyed it like it might lunge. Is this edible or decorative? Edible, synthesized for human physiology. The green spheres contain vitamin clusters. The aromatic segment is protein-fused starch. He poked the gelatin. It wobbled in protest. And this? Flavor-neutral hydration matrix. It supports gastrointestinal absorption. Aaron took a cautious bite. The texture was somewhere between tofu and regret. Tastes like the inside of a raincoat. That is not one of our documented flavor profiles. Trust me. I'm expanding your database. He picked at the rest of the tray, chewing slowly. The food wasn't terrible, just deeply unfamiliar. Still, it was warm and his stomach didn't protest too loudly. Once he'd eaten, Vesq returned with another device, this one resembling a handheld scanner with a coil on the end. This will assess bone alignment in your thoracic region. Please exhale completely and remain still. Aaron complied, the scanner humming as it passed over his ribs. The coil glowed faintly. Alignment holding, Vesq said. However, your muscle tension is impeding tissue recovery. I'm not tense, Aaron said defensively. You are clenching your abdominal stabilizers. I'm trying not to sneeze. I think one good sneeze might kill me. Vesq tilted his head. We will administer a suppression agent to prevent involuntary spasms. Is sneezing really that big a threat in your condition? Potentially catastrophic. Aaron stared at him. Great. I've survived atmospheric collapse, shuttle re-entry, and a mining drone explosion, and now a sneeze might finish the job. You should be proud of your resilience. Feels more like stubborn biology. Vesq didn't respond. Instead, he began applying thin adhesive nodes to Aaron's ribs. Each one emitted a soft pulse, like a heartbeat echoing through his bones. These will monitor micro-movements and adjust the brace tension as needed. Do not remove them. I wasn't planning to. Pretty sure they'd take skin with them. Correct. The assistant unit hovered closer, projecting a holographic readout. Vesq studied it for a long moment. "You are healing faster than anticipated," he said finally. "See, we bounce back. It's our thing, and yet you resist assistance at every turn. It's not resistance, it's cultural momentum." Vesq considered this. "I have reviewed human psychological models. You associate self-sufficiency with personal worth." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "You've been reading psych logs, of course. Our team must understand species-specific behavior patterns. And what have you learned? That humans routinely downplay injury severity to maintain social cohesion and personal agency." "Well," Aaron said, leaning back with a sigh, "I can't argue with that." He shifted slightly, wincing as the brace adjusted. The nodes pulsed again, this time more firmly. Outside the recovery bay, a low chime echoed down the corridor. Vesq glanced toward the door but didn't move. "Are you expecting more patience?" Aaron asked. "No, that tone indicates a system-wide hygiene cycle. Environmental sterilization will commence in 60 seconds. Should I hold my breath? It is non-harmful, but do not inhale deeply. The mist can irritate compromised lungs." A soft hiss began, and a translucent fog crept into the corners of the room. It smelled faintly of mint and iron. Aaron closed his eyes and tried to breathe shallowly. The mist clung to his skin, cool and oddly invigorating. When it cleared, Vesq approached with a set of translucent gloves and a narrow aerosol canister. "What now?" "Topical anti-inflammatory. It will reduce muscular strain." Aaron flinched as the spray hit his side. It was colder than he'd expected, and it left behind a tingling numbness. "Feels like I'm being snowed on by ghosts." "An inefficient metaphor," Vesq said, but continued spraying. Aaron lay back again, staring at the ceiling's soft light panels. "You know, back home, we'd probably just slap on an ice pack and call it a day, and leave the underlying damage untreated." "Well, yeah," Vesq paused. "Your species is both fascinating and deeply troubling. Welcome to the club." As the last of the treatments were applied, Vesq began inputting data into the panel beside the bed. Aaron watched the alien's hands move with rhythm and certainty, his limbs operating independently yet harmoniously. There was something weirdly calming about the efficiency. "Do you ever get tired of patching up people like me?" Aaron asked quietly. Vesq didn't look up. "Injury is inevitable, healing is preferable. That's not a no. I have treated over 300 species, each presents unique challenges. Humans are simply, statistically anomalous." Aaron chuckled, then winced immediately. "We're good at that." Vesq finally turned to him. "You survived a fall that should have rendered you unconscious. You returned under your own power with multiple injuries. You refuse sedation, assistance, or even standard rest protocols. Statistically anomalous is a generous description." Aaron gave a lopsided grin. "You say that like it's a compliment. It is not." Aaron closed his eyes again. "Still sounds like one." The lights dimmed another notch, signaling the artificial night cycle. Vesq packed up the remaining instruments and moved toward the exit. "You will rest now. Any attempt to leave the pod will trigger an alert." Aaron didn't argue. The pod was warm, the brace was snug. And for the first time since the fall, he didn't feel quite as broken. As Vesq stepped into the corridor, the assistant unit hovered closer, projecting a soft blue glow over Aaron's chest. A lullaby-like hum filled the space. Aaron cracked one eye open. "You guys always play music to your patients." The unit didn't answer, but the hum deepened slightly, almost like a response. Aaron let the sound wash over him. "All right, ghost snow and robot lullabies," he mumbled. "I've had weirder Tuesdays." Aaron woke to something tapping gently against his foot. Not a hard jab, more like a curious nudge, as if someone were testing to see if he would react. He cracked one eye open and saw a pair of glossy black ocular nodes peering at him from the edge of the bed. The assistant unit had returned with a small square monitor mounted above its central dome, flashing a pulsing yellow symbol that reminded him of an upside-down umbrella. "Yeah, I'm awake," Aaron said, voice hoarse. "Barely." The assistant beeped once and floated back a few inches. Vesq entered a few moments later, carrying a narrow tray with what looked like a stack of folded mesh and a small container of pale blue ointment. You are due for a mobility assessment. We will begin with passive articulation. Aaron blinked slowly. So, we're trying to move me around now. Thought I was on the don't touch anything list. You are, but recovery requires gradual reintroduction to motion. Otherwise, you risk joint adhesion and muscular atrophy. Aaron grimaced. Is that your way of saying I'm going to be sore in places I didn't know I had? Vesq placed the tray on the side table and unfolded the mesh. It unraveled into a flexible sleeve with embedded threads and small nodules. This will stimulate your leg musculature while limiting range. It will prevent strain on the sutured tissue. Aaron glanced at his leg. The wound had sealed over with the synthetic skin, now a faint patch of duller color against his thigh. All right, but if it zaps me, I'm suing. You do not possess standing in Zelthari jurisdiction. Then I'm filing a strongly worded letter of complaint. Vesq began wrapping the sleeve around Aaron's leg, aligning the nodes with deliberate care. The moment it activated, a soft vibration coursed through the muscle, like a deep purring under the skin. It wasn't painful, but it did feel unfamiliar. This is very weird, Aaron muttered. Like my legs being politely electrocuted. Acceptable description, Vesq said. Do not resist the impulses. Allow the joint to follow the motion. They continued with a series of slow, guided movements. Vesq manipulated Aaron's ankle and knee, the sleeve adjusting with each shift. The assistant unit recorded everything, its glowing monitor now showing angular graphs and shifting color bars. Aaron watched the ceiling. You guys ever deal with patients who just refuse to stop moving? Yes, we restrain them. Charming. Most species accept immobilization as a necessity. Your species treats it as a challenge, because lying still feels like giving up. Vesq paused, tilting his head. That explains several earlier incidents. After 20 minutes, the sleeve deactivated and Vesq removed it. Aaron's leg felt oddly loose, like it had been unplugged and reconnected in a slightly different orientation. You will repeat this procedure twice daily. Autonomic assistance is available if you are unable to operate the device manually. Aaron flexed his foot. Feels like I've been rebuilt from IKEA parts. You are structurally intact. High praise. Vesq placed the sleeve and tray in a sanitization slot, then returned with the pale blue ointment. Without speaking, he dabbed a small amount onto his fingers and gently spread it across Aaron's ribs just beneath the brace. The sensation was cool at first, then gradually warming. Aaron hissed through his teeth. Okay, that stings. The compound contains localized vasodilators to increase blood flow to the damaged tissue. Sensation is temporary. I'll add it to the list of temporary things I hate. You will experience minor discomfort during the next phase. Aaron tensed. That wasn't the painful part. We must remove the brace. Gently. The brace unlocked with a soft series of clicks and Vesq began lifting it free. Aaron clenched his jaw. The sudden absence of support made everything feel raw and vulnerable again. Do not twist. Maintain upright posture. Trying, Aaron grunted, but my spine disagrees. Vesq examined the skin beneath. Faint bruising remained, but the swelling had reduced. He ran a scanner along the ribcage, watching the display. No fluid accumulation. Ossification is progressing. You may begin limited torso rotation. Aaron turned slightly to the left. A sharp ache bloomed across his side like a cramp dipped in vinegar. That's about as far as I go before swearing. Acceptable range for day 4. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. Vesq replaced the brace, adjusting the straps with millimeter precision. Once secured, he initiated a recalibration sequence that caused the internal supports to shift subtly, contouring tighter against Aaron's body. You will remain in this configuration for 72 hours. Afterward, we will begin compression cycling. Compression cycling sounds like something I'd pay extra to avoid. You will not be charged. Small mercies. Vesq stepped away to enter notes into the console. Aaron leaned back, breathing slowly. His side still protested with every breath, but it was a duller protest than before, more like a grumble than a scream. The assistant unit emitted a soft chime. Your hydration levels are suboptimal, Vesq said without looking up. I will retrieve another nutrient solution. Make it taste like coffee this time. No. While Vesq exited, Aaron glanced toward the display panel. It showed a rotating 3D model of his torso with color-coded overlays marking bruises, microtears, and bone stress lines. The red zones had faded to orange in most places. One small area still blinked yellow. Persistent little guy, Aaron muttered. When Vesq returned, he carried a different container, tall, narrow, and filled with a translucent liquid that shimmered faintly green. This compound includes electrolytes and protein chains tailored for human cellular repair. It has a higher absorption rate than previous formulations. Aaron sniffed it cautiously. Smells like cucumbers got into a fight with a pine tree. Drink it slowly. It was cold, slightly bitter, and left a metallic aftertaste, but it didn't trigger his gag reflex, which he counted as a win. As he drank, Vesq set down a small, flat device on the bedside table. This is an interface panel. You may use it to communicate with the medical team or request assistance. It also includes an interactive simulation for mental activity calibration. Aaron raised an eyebrow. You gave me space Sudoku. Cognitive engagement improves recovery. I'll try not to rage quit it. Do not throw the panel. It is not impact rated. Aaron set the drink aside and picked up the device. The screen displayed a hexagonal puzzle. He tapped once and the shapes shifted. It wasn't exactly intuitive, but it was something to focus on. Vesq returned to the end of the bed. You are stable. Additional monitoring will be remote unless complications arise. So I'm officially boring again. You are progressing within expected parameters. Still boring. You may begin assisted standing exercises tomorrow. Now that's something to look forward to. Vesq collected the empty containers and moved toward the exit. You may experience discomfort during the night. If so, activate the panel. I'll try to suffer quietly. The door slid shut behind him, leaving Aaron with the assistant unit and the ambient hum of the recovery bay. He stared at the panel in his hand, then at the ceiling. 4 days, he said aloud. Still in one piece, mostly. The assistant hovered closer, emitting a low confirmation tone. Aaron set the panel aside and sank deeper into the pod. The warmth helped. The brace was snug but no longer suffocating. His leg ached less. His head felt clearer. He wasn't healed, but for the first time since the fall, he didn't feel like a walking accident. Not bad for someone who only needed a Bandaid, he whispered. The lights dimmed to simulate dusk. The assistant retreated to its charging station. And finally, Aaron closed his eyes without bracing for pain, not fixed, but healing. And that was enough.